Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to part 2 of this very exciting episode. Again, we are joined by Nick Fedei as well from Make CCSD Great Again, who is launching a campaign to recall the 5 school board members who voted to allow JARA the right to implement a vaccine mandate to the employees, the teachers of CCSD. Also, another Johnny Brew favorite, Miss Sarah Cirillo, is joining us. Not to spew her socialist BS, but rather because she's been investigating some of the things going on regarding JARA's ability to mandate the vaccine onto the employees and teachers of CCSD. But Sarah, apparently you have uncovered some other information. Is that right?
So, Johnny, thanks for having me. Hello, Nick. And sorry if the connection's a little bit off. As I told you, I'm down here in the middle of nowhere. So last week, as you share the same as I do, the Constitution matters. We may view how certain amendments are carried out, but nothing is greater than the First Amendment. And with that, I was becoming
Why don't you tell that?
frustrated.
Never mind. I'm not going to interrupt you. Sorry. I was about to start spewing off about conservatism. I won't.
No. Okay, great. So ultimately, I launched my website a few weeks ago called political.tips, which came from being censored myself by the local Las Vegas media markets. And some stories were supposed to come out. They didn't. And I said, you know what? We don't need to have gatekeepers. Ultimately, last week, somebody contacted me that was in a meeting with Governor Sisolak. As you may have read the story, Governor Sisolak on Monday, the 27th or 29th, held a Zoom conference with public safety and health officials where he told them he was extremely embarrassed over what was going on in the state, especially with the state employees being under 50% vaccinated, and that he intended to implement a sweeping K-12 vaccine mandate for public and private schools.
And this is coming from Sisolak, not from JARA.
This was coming directly from Sisolak, not from JARA.
So that would be not just CCSD. You're talking about all Nevada public school.
And private, John, from what was in the meeting. They're looking for a way to do it at private schools as well. When the story was presented to me, I understood what it was going to mean if I ran the story in the sense of the blowback. But with the idea that the website was news uncensored, I ran with it. And it received 3,700 views so far, which was pretty amazing.
Right, but I'm more interested in the veracity than the views.
Well, the veracity is there. And what happened was a parent group came, and I can't say who the person was, but as you would see, I described the meeting in depth. I utilized very specific statements by the governor. And in fact, I put in a FOIA request to back up what I said. Interestingly enough, I have received no response from the governor's office.
And then what is your timetable? Are you expecting them to make some sort of an announcement this week?
So the timetable was predicated in the story. They wanted something in there by January. And they were waiting for the EUA to come through for the 5-year-old through 10-year-old group,
right,
which now, as you saw, Pfizer or Moderna has gone ahead and asked for.
Correct, and you're referring to the emergency use authorization for children ages 5 through 11.
Correct. And they're looking, as I said, January. And one of the reasons January came up is they understand there was going to be immense blowback, and they wanted to make sure it happened over winter break, so it wasn't taking place during the school term.
And then finally, I also saw that you wrote another article regarding a poll you took. I think it was
No, I didn't take the poll. I reported it. It was a parents group out of Carson City that reached out to me and said, listen, we went to the Nevada appeal. Nevada appeal wouldn't run our story. Will you run this story? I said, well, what do you have? Apparently, there's a group in Carson City, along with Douglas County and a few of the other northern areas, that have put out a poll and are preparing to pull their kids out of school if a mandate comes in. Two issues came out of that poll which were pretty shocking. The first, over 1/3 of the participants didn't want their names used. They were afraid of retaliation or retribution from the government. The second part was that 95% more or less, I think right now it's 94.5% of the respondents, stated that they would pull their kids out of school if a mandate came in, and that was with close to 300 respondents.
And now,
these two people went on record, the two members who run this group and put out these polls.
and I mean, I first got the impression that this was a liberal-leaning sample pool that you are taking these surveys from. And now when you're talking about mostly northern Nevada, it makes me think it might skew towards the conservatives. I mean, do you have any idea? I mean, because I'm just saying, if I asked my friends, I mean, I think 95% of my friends would probably say the same thing, but I'd be talking to mostly conservatives.
Sure. I did not ask for the parent list, and that was not forthcoming. It was not shared with me. As I said, only the group's founders were willing to go on record. A Kevin Schwartz from Carson City, and a Barb Mathers from Douglas County.
Well, I'll tell you for sure, if I find out sometime in October they start talking about mandates for vaccinating our children, you'll get credit for giving us the scoop. I really appreciate it, Sarah.
John, anything that comes through, I don't have a dog in this fight in the sense that, and I've said this before, I'm vaccinated, my child is vaccinated, but I understand that at some point the Constitution will become rendered meaningless if we can't at least have this discussion. And that's why this has to be put out there, regardless of how anybody feels. It's what facts are, and the facts are that it has to be discussed, because we can't just cover up one side of any story.
All right, well, thanks for making it difficult to hate you. I try really hard, but you keep making me come up short. I'm sure I'll talk to you sometime soon, all right?
All right, Nick. All right, John. Y'all have a great show.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Sarah. Have a good one.
Yep. Bye.
There you go. So, regarding the vaccine mandate for children, Sarah Cirillo had some, says she has some inside information. Again, if this comes to fruition, then I'm going to give her credit. If it doesn't, I'm going to make fun of her.
Well, and you have to imagine, if you look at the history of what is being pushed, mandating vaccines on the employees of CCSD right now, it's likely going to follow. And we had a video here to kind of outline the upcoming EUA for 5 to 11. If we'd like to show that one.
All right, you got that? All right, let's play a tape. This is coming from Make CCSD Great Again.
The district has an obligation to protect the health of our children, our staff, and the public that we serve from this virus. This virus causes disease and death.
Now, when it comes to parents' attitudes about getting their kids vaccinated, there's been a lot of polling on this. Some of the latest from the Kaiser Family Foundation shows that in September, more parents were eager to get their kids ages 5 to 11 vaccinated. 34% in September saying yes right away versus 26% in July. And that really kind of goes along with an uptick in cases in kids that we saw over the course of those months. So it's still not a majority of parents saying yes, absolutely right away, we'll get the shot. But that sort of willingness seems to be increasing.
The authority that I am requesting is to allow me as the superintendent to develop a plan and processes necessary to implement the full vaccination of our staff. I am not, let me be clear, I am not asking for authority for student vaccinations.
But the news today, Pfizer officially getting that full application in for emergency use authorization for the vaccine down to age 5. This comes after we heard a couple weeks ago that the pivotal trial results showed favorable safety for this vaccine for these age groups and a strong immune response. These are 2 shots given 3 weeks apart, but it's a third of the adult dose. The FDA has set an advisory committee meeting for October 26th for its advisors to discuss this vaccine for that age group up until...
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm really impressed with the production. Was that you?
Yes, thank you.
Nice job. Nice job. I
appreciate
mean, you know, good effects, and I mean, you got the scary music and stuff like that.
Get your attention, right?
But that's what you need in this day and age. I mean, marketing and branding is half the battle of getting your message out.
Yep.
I mean, that basically encapsulates what your organization feels.
Right.
What comprises your organization?
Well, I mean, we're a bunch of just parents that are concerned about what the government's going to try to do to us, to our children, to us as just adults or parents of CCSD.
And is this a political PAC or a nonprofit organization?
Not yet. We may consider doing a political PAC or an action committee of some sort once this kind of gets off the ground more. Got
you. And I was wondering if it would be okay. Can we go through that video again and pause it so I noticed a couple of things that I think need to be pointed out.
The district has an obligation to protect the health of our children, our staff, and the public that we serve from this virus.
All right. I mean, there's a perfect example. I mean, since COVID has entered the realm of, America, we have had a total of about 400 to 500 children die, and many of them, unfortunately, had debilitating diseases. Like I remember, I can't verify that number now, but when the number was 351, I was able to verify that none of those children didn't have a pre-existing condition.
Right.
So much so where I think it was like almost all of them didn't even go to regular schools because they, had to wear a helmet to protect their brain, or they had some kind of a
autoimmune
condition.
Or something. Yep.
Right, exactly. So they weren't even in. So, and in that same time period, since COVID has come, we're now up to 400 to 500. 900 children have died of pneumonia.
Right.
So our children aren't at risk of this.
Not really.
And also we have this new situation where we're sending asymptomatic children home.
Yep.
I mean, for the first time in history, kids, if you had minor symptoms, you stayed at school. Much less if you didn't have any symptoms, you went to school.
Absolutely.
I don't sending asymptomatic children home, because asymptomatic spread is another one of the, I hope YouTube doesn't get mad at me. Asymptomatic spread is real and it's dangerous.
Yes, it is real and dangerous.
All right, continue.
This virus causes disease and death.
To people who are over 78 years old.
Now, when it comes to parents' attitudes about getting their kids vaccinated, there's been a lot of polling on this. Some of the latest from the Kaiser Family Foundation shows that in September, more parents were eager to get it.
And pause on this poll. First of all, you want to share your observations first? Go ahead.
So what struck me as odd, and the reason I included this in the video, does this really substantiate kind of what I'm going with here, that parents don't want their children vaccinated? This kind of says complete opposite. Of course, this came from MSNBC, so you got to take it kind of with a grain of salt. And what they're saying here in the far left, I'm just going to focus on that one where it says right away. It jumped from July and I believe it's 25% to 34%.
Is that 28 to 34?
26, I'm sorry. 26% to 34%. Now, does that mean that people are going to run out and get it? Only 34%, right? That's extremely low. So if you do this poll and only 34% of parents want to get their children vaccinated.
That's 1 out of 3.
Right.
That's not a minority. That's not a majority.
No, it's not. So that's why I found that very interesting.
Well, you know what I find interesting is, if you notice, wait and see is 40.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And now it's 32. Right? And the other one went from 26 to 34.
Yep.
So all that's saying is that 8% of people 5 months ago said we're going to wait and see, and now they feel good about it.
Right.
Like, this seems like a normal human thing.
Right.
Not a lot of people want it, 1 out of 3.
Yep.
And the only changes in this graph is that some people went from wait and see to, okay, I'll take it.
Right.
Which is what happens when people say, I'll wait and see.
Right, and they get, once the vaccine's been out a while and they can actually see what the effects are, right? Now they're more comfortable.
They're feeling better about it now.
But only 34%.
Still.
Right.
Which is still 1 out of 3. We went from 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 3.
Right.
Which is still a very small minority.
Yep.
All right, continue. It's funny how they
ages 5
change
to 11 vaccinated.
what you're
34%
seeing.
in September saying yes right away.
What is it, let's
versus
go
26%
Brian
in
or
July. And
something?
that really kind of goes
Let's go,
along
Brandon.
with
Brandon, yeah.
in cases in kids that we saw over the course of those months. So it's still not a majority of parents saying yes, absolutely right away, we'll get the shot. But that sort of willingness seems to be increasing.
The authority that I am requesting is to allow me as the superintendent to develop a plan and processes necessary to implement the full vaccination of our staff. I am not, let me be clear, I am not asking for authority for student vaccinations.
Wow. First of all, I mean, I don't understand how a man, this is just a school superintendent, he's just some dude.
Yep.
What makes him think that he has the right to tell people, like, pretend you're my doctor,
Yeah.
and there's my wife. And we sit down and we talk and we decide that while the vaccination might be right for my wife, given my circumstances, it's not right for me.
Well, and your doctor doesn't even have the right to tell you what you have to do.
Right.
So why does
Well, how does he
superintendent
get the right to step in between me and you, or
Correct.
me and my wife, or me and my family, and decide that I should take this?
And the only logical explanation is that there's funding this. And
So if they get 90% vaccination, they'll get more federal dollars.
Correct. Right. If you impose the CDC requirements, or if you mandate these things as the CDC or the Biden administration wants you to, hey, we'll give you a little scadola under the keyboard here. We're going to keep you going.
Right, they're bragging about Delta going from 46% vaccinated to 99% vaccinated because they fired half their
people.
staff.
Yeah. And the sad reality is that if you look at the statistics of the vaccine itself, is it effective at keeping you out of the hospital? Maybe. Right? You can't really say yes and you can't really say no because there's not a good Delta or a good control group to compare to.
And anytime there is a control group, it's proving to be what we've been warning about.
Right.
I mean, I look at the vaccine as a flu vaccine.
Correct.
I've never gotten the flu vaccine. I have no desire to ever get it.
Yep.
I'm not anti-flu vaccine.
I'm not anti-vaccine at all.
My wife got the flu vaccine. More power to her.
It's her decision.
She felt sick.
Yeah.
She said, I'm not going to get that vaccine again.
And that's kind of where I am with all of this, and this is kind of why I got involved with it, is the last thing I want is for another person to tell me what to do with my body, right? And one of the first things I said at the board meeting is, where's my body, my choice now? Right? You can't tell a woman to get an abortion.
Right. Which a fetus is not a woman's body. A fetus is its own body. But
correct.
Continue.
Nonetheless, right? I still can't walk in and say you must get an abortion.
Right.
Right. Even if you were taking government aid, I can't walk to you and say, well, I'm not paying you anymore, you better abort that, right? I don't have that right.
Or vice versa.
Exactly.
To tell her not to get an abortion.
Exactly. So, fact of the matter is that why does the school district get that power? And the reason I wanted to bring this up, so no children yet. Yet. Why do I say yet? Because now they're going after the authorization for 5 to 11. It's almost, if you just follow the chain reaction here, they're likely going to say, hey, let's mandate children vaccines, much like polio and, measles, mumps, rubella, all that stuff, which have years of proven efficacy.
Right. I mean, like, for example, when the polio vaccine came out, after 5 years of it being administered and proven safe, 53% of the American population got the vaccine.
Right.
It took over 5 years to get 50% of the American population
and now we're at
vaccinated.
A year and a half, and they want 100% of Americans to have it.
Right. I mean, that's physically impossible. Even if you talk about measles, mumps, and rubella, first of all, it was proven effective for 15 years before it was mandated in schools.
Absolutely.
That's number one. Number two, it's mandated. Polio, mandated. MMR, mandated.
Right. But
they have 80 to 93% of people have that vaccine.
exactly
and
what I
they're
was just about to say.
mandated, they're done, and everybody has it. Do your kids have the MMR vaccine?
I
Do your
have-
kids have,
yeah.
Do you have it? We all have the MMR vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is 80 to 93%.
Right.
You're never ever going to get
gonna
97%.
98% like they want. And here's the other piece.
You'll
that's
never
very-
get 100,000 votes delivered to a voting site.
No.
And it be 97% for one candidate.
No, you're right. It's
You
100% for one
That's
candidate.
impossible.
Right? But you know, the sad reality is that you're not paying attention to the fact that, hey, here's your vaccine, take it or leave it, right?
Right.
You're forced to have it. And why? Why am I forced to? Why are you not looking at those that have already had COVID?
That's the elephant in the room.
Right. Now, can you still get COVID with the vaccine?
After 2 months, I think you have somewhat immunity for about 2 months after getting the vaccine.
Are you still hospitalized? Can you still be hospitalized?
They say it's rare.
Can you still die?
They say it's rare.
Can you still pass COVID if you have the vaccine?
Yeah, that's not rare. That's just regular.
So, what is the point?
At least as far as I know.
Right.
I'm just telling you from my gathering
and looking
of
at the numbers,
information.
if you look at the
Right.
statistics that come out with this, there are hospitalization with COVID vaccines. There are death with COVID vaccines.
Well, no, part of the problem is the misinformation.
I agree.
The misinformation of saying, all right, back in, I think it was June or July, they were saying 98% of COVID deaths are the unvaccinated.
Right.
But they were using a year's worth of time that there was no vaccine.
Right.
And then there was 3 months of time that we had the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then that was like, say, 75-25 or 50-50. But that percentage of unvaccinated people was 100% for for 85% of their sample size.
You're right.
So if it's 25% of 10%, you're going to get 98%.
Right.
So they're fooling the public, and they're not even coming clean about it. And
Well,
they're
you're
using-
spreading misinformation, though.
by releasing the information of how they get their information.
Right. Is that
We can pull back the curtain.
and that's the problem I have here. I could make a statistic look good by any data I want to pull. I just leave out the information that makes it look bad. Right.
Right.
So, but
Right.
yeah, that's why this is going to be very interesting to see how it happens.
And then this leads into the obvious questions of, first of all, people getting denied health care. Like we had somebody, I forget what show, I think it was on Glenn Beck, they had a woman who was scheduled to give another woman a kidney.
Yeah.
But because they weren't vaccinated, they
turned them down.
canceled it and said they couldn't
there was
get
also
it.
one, I heard a story about a woman that had cancer, and they refused to treat her because she didn't have a vaccine. And
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
And then that leads to teachers
you
here.
can't get on a plane. You can't do this. You
Well,
can't,
who
now,
knows where this is going to
Right,
lead?
yeah, I mean-
but where I'm trying to take it is CCSD teachers are now being denied seeing their OBGYN or being
Yeah.
denied critical care or being
Well-
denied into certain cancer institutes because THT hasn't paid any of their bills.
Yep, you're
There's
right.
$45 million missing.
Yep.
The school board refuses to bail them out because it's their problem, and CCEA is just saying, well, we don't have the money. I don't know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, and
what
why
do you-
aren't they pushing for another option, or why? It was very interesting during that meeting.
And then you say the CCSD board in episode 1 of this, part A of this, you were talking about how certain school board members, I think it was Cepeda and Morales,
No,
are...
Cepeda, Guzman was paid 20,000, and then Cepeda and Cavazos was paid another 2 each.
from the NSCA.
Mm-hmm.
So now you wonder why the school board refuses to bail out CCEA when I thought they were besties and something like that, so it's making sense if they want to cause a rift.
Yeah.
So if the school board refuses to bail them out, all that's happening is teachers are getting thrown under the bus.
Absolutely.
People at THT, nobody's lost their job. People at CCA, nobody's lost their job. People at nobody's gotten resigned or revoked from the school board so
Nope.
far. But meanwhile, teachers are losing all their health coverage.
And I found it very interesting at the last meeting when THT was doing their presentation. They had mentioned that they had been liquidating assets for many years now because they don't have the funds to pay all the claims. With inflation and everything else, they haven't adjusted anything since '84, I believe is what they said.
they're getting so much money. I mean, we could get into the money, how much they're getting. And it's not even counted towards the teacher's salary. The way they get the money, it's a secret.
Sure.
So we don't even know how much it is. It's anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 plus per teacher.
Yeah.
So we should, or teachers should, have the best health care that is available.
Well, and according to them, and I have to go off of their word because the only statistics or any data that they're releasing, Clark County is not substantiating. They're not negotiating in public. They won't show us what they know.
And these are public contracts.
And these are public contracts. The public entity, as long as I, or
and
as far as I
they're
know,
paid with tax dollars.
they are, as far as I understand. I understand that it's our tax dollars that pay into this, right? But we don't have a right to know what it is that CCSD is claiming is missing. What is missing? Now, looking back at THT during their presentation, they mentioned how they've been liquidating assets for the last several years because they don't have the funds to pay all of the claims. Now, they've reached back out to CCEA and tried to negotiate new, withdrawals from teachers pay more in their premiums, right? And to make up for those losses. Now, CCSD is like, no, we're not going to negotiate. We're not going to do it. And they haven't for the last, 8-10 years been able to take and increase premiums. Now, I don't know about you, but under Obamacare, when that was launched, I had to pay $300 extra each month out of my paycheck for my health insurance. It went up. THT hasn't been able to do the same. Now, I'm not saying that that's the reason. I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's still missing money.
Right.
But we're not trying
whose fault is it? Are they missing the money because they paid the claims and they don't have the money to pay the claims and they're not getting enough to pay?
They have a budget of $5.2 billion per year pre-COVID.
Right.
Throw in another billion per year over the next 3 years thanks to COVID funds.
Right.
We have the money. At the snap of a finger, we could get $120 million worth of Chromebooks.
Sure.
Why can't we snap of a finger pay
and
these people's? I mean, this is people's health and stress and pregnancy and cancer and OBGYNs and everything.
Well, and it was quite contentious in that last meeting because THT and CCSD were like, look, we're not going to talk about this here, but you're saying that in our contract, we have to negotiate a better deal, and we're not going to do that. So piss off.
And they used to say, oh, well, I only make $45,000, but I got the best health care. Right. I got the best retirement. They got crapped out. And how much? And they're paying $1,000 a year to the union. Yeah. They're paying $12,000 a year to their THT that they don't even know about. Right. That gets the way they budget it. It's just such a secret.
And what's odd about this, too, is when you talk to the teachers at that meeting, some of them want to keep THT, and others just want another option. So why isn't the CCEA and CCSD looking at other options to give them something?
Why aren't there vouchers? If you as a teacher are eligible for $12,000 a year in health insurance,
why can't you take it
and shop it around?
Yeah, go to HBN, go to
taxpayer
Blue Cross Blue Shield,
living in North Las Vegas, why can't you take your voucher and shop at Spring Valley or Durango or A-Tech or West Tech or any CCSD
Well, and let me ask
school?
you, how do you think that this is going to pan out well for THT, even if they get their funding under control? Because now all these medical facilities have dropped them. Are they going to trust them again and start taking their money? Are these teachers screwed?
We need another option.
And one of the things I found quite interesting, and this might be a conflict of interest, but Cavazos is a psychiatrist, right? She doesn't take THT.
Yeah.
She doesn't take it. So why doesn't she take THT? She cares about the teachers. She cares about teachers' health. She cares about...
And they're supposed to have the best health care.
Right. Okay, fine. It's a conflict of interest. I'm on the board. I can't do this. Well, I'm sure you know people in the industry. Take it. But they have 3 options for mental health. 3 under THT. I'm sorry. It's a sad state of affairs. And our teachers need some help. And I see CCEA is fighting to keep THT. They are. And some teachers love it. Right? But I think the damage may be too far gone. And at least you need to negotiate other options. There just has to be something else.
I just don't understand why, if the most powerful union in the country is the teachers union, why are teachers the least paid, worst health care, worst working conditions?
Well, you see it's paying off. We have a teacher shortage. We have a substitute teacher shortage.
Right.
The pool of teachers is drying up.
And you know what that leads to? I mean, nobody's even talking about what I think is the most important aspect of this conversation, is that they can't get rid of any teachers.
Right.
So any bad teachers stay there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more
They
and
can't
more
afford to
bad
get rid of them.
teachers every year.
Right.
And they're horrible.
They are.
I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean,
Absolutely.
teachers who really...
Well, and not to jump off a different topic, but then you talk about the substitute teachers.
Right.
The blind leading the blind here. They're offering anybody with a high school diploma the opportunity to teach at the school district.
And when they're paying somebody about $100, $110 a
day,
what kind of talent pool do you think you're going to get? Are you going to get a retired architect?
No. You're going to get high school students that just graduated, and you're going to push them into a classroom to try to teach whatever they can.
And that has other problems because some of the kids I've had some kids who have graduated who are considering doing it, which, while I thought this was a horrible idea, when I heard these two kids were thinking of doing it, I was like, oh, well, maybe there is some hope. They're like, but they want me to pay $800 to get fingerprinting and stuff like that without a guarantee of getting the job.
Right. And
so people who would take a job making $110 are the people who would never be able to afford $600 or $800 in licensing fees.
Right.
I think they waived the licensing fees, but the background check
and everything else
and the fingerprinting they still have to pay for.
And what's sad is that they're in desperate need when they're calling all of the high school graduates, including my son.
They're literally calling them.
They're calling them,
right,
and saying, "Hey, come in, we need you."
That's crazy.
So, but why do we have a substitute teacher shortage?
Why do we have a bus driver shortage? Why do we have a teacher shortage?
You know what's even crazier about the bus driver shortage? We're going to start putting our students on city buses. Would you put your student?
Video, babe?
Would you put your student on a bus?
I wouldn't let my wife go on a city bus without me.
I'm just saying.
Seriously.
I'm with you.
Play tape.
The district has an obligation to protect the health of our children, our staff, and the public that we serve from this virus.
School buses arriving late or not showing up altogether. It's been a struggle for students and parents throughout the valley this year. And it's all because the district is short around 230 bus drivers. And CCSD is acknowledging they have to find a new route. Insert RTC. Parents have their safety concerns about riding public transportation.
A man was stabbed during an argument on a public bus. This is according to Metro Police. It happened as the RTC bus was on Charleston near Maryland Parkway around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Part of Charleston was shut down as police investigated. They say the man who was stabbed is expected to be okay. No word yet on the person who did it.
RTC says they have 12 cameras on each bus with a live look-in feature for RTC security and law enforcement, and more than 200 officers patrol RTC stops and transit centers.
So let me ask you, right? You won't even put your wife on a bus alone. I'm going to put my children on it.
A 12-year-old girl?
Right. And I'm just supposed to expect that these cameras they put in the buses...
I don't know. What do... Democrats, why do you love cameras so much?
You want to see
you want to put cameras at the border. You want to put cameras at the school. I don't care what happened after the fact.
Right. I don't. I want to protect...
I want like an armed security guard or a cop.
Is CCSD putting CCSD police on these buses that are going to have children?
I sure hope so.
They haven't said anything. They haven't announced any of that. But you got pedophiles riding buses. You've got...
Especially if you start finding out which bus routes the kids are taking the RTC.
And don't you know that predominantly,
low
income families, that's where they're going to bus these children from. They're not going to send...
The Summerlin kids?
No, my kids to my school.
Because I'm sorry, but if a kid had to take the bus from Summerlin to Spring Valley, that trip I think would be a little safer than going to, say, Las Vegas high school downtown or on Fremont.
Exactly. So I don't trust the safety of the buses anymore. I wouldn't put my students on it. So I wonder, and now all these parents are coming out going, whoa, this may not be a good idea. But now, I applaud the school district for making an effort to do something. But my point of this is that, fine, if you want to utilize another contract or try to leverage some help from the city to help out with this, why don't they have independent buses running? Why don't they have school police at the bus stops where these kids have to get on and get off? Why don't they have the
bus drivers?
Yeah, exactly. Now, why are we short on bus drivers?
Well, because they're paying them like substitute teachers.
They are.
I mean, nobody wants to work for Do you know where we don't have a shortage?
Where?
We don't have a shortage in the front office of CCSD schools.
No. And they're
you
paid
notice
well.
There's plenty of assistant principals, counselors, ELL, secretaries, copy machine people. Like, we have all that is fine.
Yeah.
Because they're all making $45,000, $50,000. They have 9-to-5 jobs. They clock in,
Yep.
they clock out, and they have nobody's talking bad about them. They earn what they should be earning.
Yep.
They don't necessarily have a college degree or anything like that, and they have a regular job.
So let me
the teachers are making the same amount,
Right.
but they have to work so much harder,
Harder.
deal with so much more crap, and they have no support whatsoever, whether you're talking about from their administrators, from the public, from the governor. I mean, they're mandating stuff on them. Every time they have a new code that you got to learn how to differentiate instruction, you need to learn how to be more inclusive, you got to learn about restorative justice. They keep giving them more responsibility without
Yep.
taking any away.
Well, and listen to this argument, right? You're going to pay your bus driver $17 an hour, right? Up to, I think it's 21, somewhere in there. That's the max you can get as a bus driver. But yet you're out here saying minimum wage is $15 an hour?
Right.
And you have no responsibility. I could flip burgers at McDonald's and make $15 an hour.
Right, as opposed to driving around kids.
Yeah, I hold the liability.
You know what? If you wanted to give them $17 an hour, that might work. But don't make them take a 3-hour lunch in the middle of the day.
Right.
They make them work for 3 hours in the morning,
Yep.
take 3 hours off and work 3 hours in the afternoon at $17 an hour.
Right.
Look,
They're not making enough.
pay the people to have a 3-hour lunch, and sometimes you need somebody. Hey, can you run these orchestra kids over? But they're on the pay rate. It's too bad that there's a 2-hour gap. I mean, I'm sure if you get a mathematical mind to logistically figure it out,
We might have to go to infinity to figure it out, though.
Then you're able to give everybody a staggered schedule with a 2-hour lunch break.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I bet you if you tell bus drivers, hey, here's 2 hours on us.
There you go. It's a benefit.
Next thing you know, hey, I'll drive a bus.
Yeah, why not? But if you believe...
These solutions are so simple. I mean, they spend $5.2 billion.
Right.
You want to spend an extra $34 on a bus driver?
Now, if you believe in capitalism, right? The CCSD doesn't believe in it, but if you did believe in capitalism, then you would have the best bus drivers in the world.
Well, that's my whole thing. I mean, again, I told you I considered running, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my platform is very simple. Get rid of the union, contribute to my campaign, because I'm going to work my ass off to get you a 50% raise right across the board.
Absolutely.
I want to get all the people who turned in those CU booklets, teachers, you know what I'm talking about, get them money for that trouble.
Yeah.
Because they deserve a bonus for all the time they had to put into that.
I want to give them more money to decorate their schools or their classrooms. I want to provide the materials they need to
Right.
train or teach our children.
Well, I want to just fiscally eviscerate the budget.
Yeah.
Get rid of the standardized test, the contracts, the software that we have contracts with. Get rid of that and start paying the teachers.
Fairly.
Get them good health insurance. Let us, if you want, we'll provide the health insurance
Absolutely.
better, and you don't need the union.
Right.
I'll get you a raise. I'll get you good health insurance.
Right. Absolutely.
I'll get you smaller classes because there'll be more teachers.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't either. It doesn't make any sense.
Why do we need unions and districts and school board members and socialism when it's destroying everything?
It literally is. You're focused more on, not hurting people's feelings and not focusing on, actually educating our children. Go back
Right.
to the core principles of education.
Right, nobody's talking reading,
Writing and arithmetic. Right.
And then one of the favorite subjects on the Johnny Bruce Show is the absolute demise of discipline in CCSD, and it all stems from something that we can't even address on the school board. We have to go to legislature
Yeah.
for it, because this is a law in Nevada, the Restorative Justice, and the way we have lost most of our behavior skills schools, the way it's impossible to expel anyone, the reason why kids can spit in a teacher's face or get into a fight, yet still be in school the next day.
Yep.
I think we have a video for Restorative Justice, 7A. Play tape. They passed the Restorative Justice thing where you can't get the kid out of school. A kid could go up to
Yes,
the
you
teacher.
can. Oh,
No,
yes, you can. Yes, you can. You
I
have to
teach
look.
in the schools, I'm telling you.
But you haven't. Look, they just passed a new suspension and expulsion policy not even a month ago. And pursuant to that, you have to go through a chain of events before you can remove a student from school. So you need to go, and I think I'll send the link to you, but we just revised that policy alone. And
Shooting at a Friday night football game right now is putting a spotlight on rising violence at local schools. But whether it's fights or guns being confiscated, many parents right now, they're concerned that their schools are no longer safe for their children.
Well, there you go. I mean, you know,
So I got to tell you, Johnny, we met with some teachers after the last meeting, and they were appalled by this new process. And they explained to us how it worked, because even reading this chart...
Are you putting the chart up? Beautiful.
So just even explaining this chart, they were explaining how they have to go through all of these various steps, and it's a flow. And, you know, as Anna Binder had mentioned in your last show, she was going to send you a link for it, there's a process that you have to follow in order to get them expelled or for disciplinary actions. Now, some of the teachers had mentioned to us that they can't move on to the next step until they've completed the first step.
Right, and if you guys notice that green left column, these are the first steps to, in order to not suspend children. And you notice at the bottom line of each of those steps on the left in green is to contact the parents and to speak with the parents. Not leave a message, not send an email, not all of the above, but actually speak to a parent.
Right. And so they can't move on to the next steps, and therefore these children aren't being disciplined. And the teachers we spoke with, they said, look, that takes so much time out of our day, and it's so disruptive to our learning.
That's the responsibility of the teachers.
Right.
When are they supposed to do that?
That's what they're saying. That's why they don't deal with it.
Especially if it's half the class.
Right. So they just stand up there and wait in silence until they actually start listening to them. And so they've lost all hope in CCSD disciplining these children. And, you know, we had commented earlier, I was in a Catholic school. If I was talking when my teacher was talking, I got smacked with a ruler. Right. And I'm not saying we have to go back to those times, but...
I am. Oh, no, I might run for school, but I'm not. I changed my mind. No capital punishment at all.
But at the very least, remove the problem from the classroom and don't disrupt the other students.
100%.
So that's why I think this process has failed, and it's going to continue to fail. Teachers have lost faith in this plan.
Right.
So why are we going to continue going down that road?
Well, I've said a dozen times. I mean, I don't care how big a class size is, as long as if a kid is a problem, I can get rid of him.
Right.
That's the big. You can't. You know, it's like saying you can't have a welfare state and open borders.
Right.
You can't have a restorative justice state and have what was my point? Oh, and have infinite class sizes.
Yeah,
you can't have both of them.
It doesn't work. And you can have larger class sizes if everybody is respectful and if you can get through the material.
Right, and that's why colleges could have an auditorium, because you don't have college kids throwing spitballs in the back of the class.
Exactly, or talking or being disruptive or starting fights. And we're talking, here's even some more interesting things about this. Each one of these boxes, you have to complete them for the same behavior. So for a different behavior...
Oh, so if I spit on a teacher... And then I smack a girl.
Smack a girl's another behavior. And that's 2 cycles through this plan.
So I have to, if I smack 4 girls and spit on 4 teachers, I'm still in the green.
Yeah.
I'm still good.
Yeah,
as long as I don't do it a 5th time.
Then, and when you get to your 5th time, you move over to the yellow, which is
a
minor.
Does that mean I get kicked out?
No. That means we're going to start again. So we're going to log the major incident in IC, notify office, and we're going to contact the parent. And then
Haven't we contacted the parent 5 times already?
Yeah, we got to do it again. And then we got to talk to the admin and go through.
We haven't talked to admin yet?
Oh no, they have, but it's again over the same student for same behavior.
Admin has time for this?
5
times for one
incident. Same behavior.
Right.
So you go through all of these steps, and then once you get through the red column here, that's when they can actually.
That looks like 18 steps.
It's a lot.
The 18th time. What happens the 18th time?
So log major incident, notify office of major incident, request escort if warranted, and then admin chooses level 5 resolution.
So on the 18th time, they're going to start considering a resolution? Okay, what are the considerations of resolution?
Now they have other resolution. Admin chooses level 3, level 4 resolutions. There are different resolution types.
When you start getting into the bottom of the yellow and the and the red section.
But of course, expulsion isn't until that's their last resort, right?
And that you're looking at 24 instances of just the same behavior. So 23 smacking girls, you're good. You could just have to spit on teachers. You can't smack any more girls.
And of course, they have, this isn't very clear also. Admin chooses level 3, level 5 resolution in several of these, right? Now, I guess they can decide based on the...
To skip a step?
Or the nature of the incident if it warrants a specific action.
Spitballs, we could follow that.
Right.
Smacking a girl, maybe we could skip a couple steps.
And that's probably more of like a... CCSD police.
But we're still looking at 8 steps then.
Exactly. This is why teachers are so frustrated. And this is what they express to us is that this is way too complicated for them to have to deal with. It's way too time consuming, and they don't deal with it. So it's crazy. I think they need to revisit this plan, and I think we need to stop coddling our children and hold them accountable for their actions in the classroom.
Well, some options in order to try to make this easier and easier to swallow and maybe have a diversified disciplinary rules and stuff like that is breaking up CCSD.
Yes.
Now, this has been talked about, I believe, for 30, 40 years.
It's been a lot. And they passed several legislations to try to do this, but it doesn't appear that they've made any ground.
What do you mean legislations to look at it?
No, to actually break up the district. Now there is Nevada Constitution does not allow you to actually break up CCSD. There's stipulations there, so you have to look at that. Try to amend the Constitution, but they passed like AB 469 to allow principals more power over the school. They're able to allocate funds. They're able to assign essential staff, all those kind of things. But then they're trying to break up other things. They created this SOT. They've created all these other things to try to make that happen. But all of it still falls under Clark County under the guise of JARA. And until they change that, you're not breaking up CCSD.
All right. Well, I see you have some ideas and some statistics to share with us. What we're going to do is we're going to save that for the last part 3.
Sure.
We're going to talk about what it would take to break up CCSD.
Sure.
What that would look like and the current statistics regarding CCSD. We're going to talk about the Nevada Education Warriors, the new grading system, which we touched upon a little bit, and then, of course, learning loss and some of the semantics that are turning into mudslinging at parents' meetings.
Yes.
All right, so we'll be right back. Do me a favor, guys. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the little ring bell. Make sure you look up the Johnny Brew Show on Facebook as well as Common Sense Nevada. And also, please look up Make CCSD Great Again. My name is John Brookhagen. This is the Johnny Brew Show.